Hi, my name is Johnny Barch with Mindray Ultrasound, and this is the Mindray Z6 ultrasound machine. When you buy it and it comes to your facility, it'll come in a couple of boxes. You'll have the Z6 and the batteries in one box along with the power cord, and you'll have your transducers in a separate box depending on how many you bought. And then you'll also have a box of the UMT 150 cart if you chose to purchase the cart. I strongly recommend following the directions for the UMT 150 mobile cart, as it is simple to follow if you are following the directions, and takes about 30 to 45 minutes to put together. We'll discuss the setup of the equipment, which doesn't involve too much, and we'll talk about then the setup menu once we power on the machine and some of the basics. So if we look to the back of the machine, on the back of the Z6 we have a couple of ports where the transducers are plugged in, and once you take them out of their boxes, you can go ahead and see where they fit on the back of the machine here. And when you go to put them on, they just slide right in. And once they're in, you're not going to hear a click or a pop, but you'll just turn the little dial there and it'll be locked into place. And there are two ports back there. You can have two transducers plugged in at one time. On the back, you'll also see a space where the battery is. When you open up this little compartment, there'll be one battery included, and that will fit right into the compartment here. You just close that lid, and then you'll also see where the power cord inserts on the back of the machine in the bottom right corner. That's the gray cord that will be along with the machine in the box. Then you'll also see another little panel here that has a output for a VGA cord, which you see attached here. That's not included, but it's good to know that you can attach that to an external display. You'll also have area that you can plug in a network cable. You'll see an area that you plug in an analog printer, and then you also have a couple of USB ports here for thumb drives, and you have a digital printer out as well as S-video. A side note is that there are two more USBs on the side of the machine over here, which aren't visualized currently, but you'll see those as soon as you look at the Z6. As you put the Z6 on a table or a cart, wherever you're storing the machine in order to use it, you'll notice that there's two little tabs, one on each side of the machine, and when you pinch those, it'll bring the lid down and you'll see the full layout of the console and display here. Note up in the right corner is the power button, so we'll go ahead and press that power button. It'll take about 25 to 30 seconds to boot up. Once your machine is booted up, again taking about 25 to 30 seconds, you'll see that on the very first thing you'll notice is a little login box. There is no password, and so what we'll do is we'll just use the trackball to move the cursor, and we'll use the set key to select login. Again, no password. From here, we're at the normal imaging screen, B mode imaging screen. This is where we're going to want to choose the setup button, which is located toward the top of the keyboard. When I press that, what it'll do, it'll give me a menu on the left-hand side, and it'll also give me some tabs across the top depending on which setup tab I'm in. This first one is important as you set up your new equipment. This system preset gives you the region tab, which where you can put in your facility name, address, telephone number, as much as you'd like. You can choose your time zone, you can choose the date format, as well as a 12-hour versus 24-hour. The system date, make sure is accurate, and then you can have your time change if you need to. Other tabs along the top as you're getting used to your machine is the general tab, which I recommend taking a look at. You'll see that you have the enable screensaver. That'll be selected automatically by default when you get your machine. Also the standby, I believe, is selected as well. If you don't want those, you can just go ahead and uncheck them. And you can also change the duration in terms of how much time it takes for the standby and screensaver to come on. Depending on where you are and what you prefer, you can have those selected or deselected. Looking at the image tab, these are just things that will change your parameters when you're imaging and what you prefer, along with application. Underneath the OB tab, you may want to take a look and have this selected for the EDD for OB scanning. Underneath the key configuration tab, you see where you have the print button as well as save 1 and save 2 and your F1 buttons that you see on your console of your machine. You can select those and change what they control. If you have an analog printer and you select print over here, you can then change to analog print on the print option itself. If you'd like to have your save buttons do something other than save a still image or save a cine clip, That's where you see what other options you have, and you can look through those and explore to see what you have on each of these tabs. You can use the arrow button to get back here to all of the different functions. Once you move on to Save To, for example, and you want to save that or put that as a save image to hard drive as well, you just select it on the right side. Looking down toward the bottom, you can see that you can change the color of the trackball, which can be kind of fun. There's different colors here. I prefer the blue, green, or the purple. They tend to show up the most vividly. You can change the key volume as well, and if you select that, you can either have it at 0, which would be a muted key volume with no volume, or 1, 2, and 3. Depending on if you like to hear the sound of each keystroke or not hear it, you can change that as you wish. You can also change the key brightness as well as the trackball speed. Whatever changes that you make, you want to make sure that you click on Save when you're finished with that using the trackball and the set key. That will save any of the changes that you've made. One thing I'd like to point out is that if you go to the Admin tab underneath the System Preset, this is where you can disable or enable that user account control that we saw when we first booted up the machine. Some people prefer to not have that pop up and it just goes right to the imaging screen, or if you wish, you can have it stay there and be enabled in order to maybe slow down somebody if they were trying to get into it and you didn't wish them to. If you go to the other tabs down the left side, you can see things like Exam Preset. Whatever transducers you have plug in, you can find them in this drop-down list, and you can see which presets are loaded onto each of the transducer. If you move some back and forth, meaning these ones, exam selected would be what's on the transducer, what's on the left is the exam library. You can move them back and forth. If you're using a linear, you probably won't have any adult cardiac on there, so we maybe move that back over to the exam library. Other things you may look at are your measure preset, and that just goes along with each exam preset, as well as some of the networking and DICOM issues. I would recommend that you refer to the user manual when you're setting up any of the DICOM stuff, or giving your local sales rep or your clinical specialist a phone call. We can help you go through some of these things and coordinate. If you have a biomed person or clinical engineering, they're a great resource as well. If your machine came with the DICOM software, it would be on a USB thumb drive, and we would install it by going to the setup screen and going to maintenance. Again, that was something I recommend following the manual with and calling your local sales rep and or your clinical specialist. Again, I can't reiterate enough and stress enough that you want to click Save anytime you've made changes. Without clicking Save, some of the things that you may have done in terms of your system preset, entering your facility name and so on and so forth, will not be saved. It won't take about a few minutes to go back and redo that, but sometimes you make changes and you forget to press that Save, so I just want to make sure that everyone knows that you go down here and you click Save. And then once you're done with that, it'll take you back out to the setup screen, and now you've escaped back to your B mode imaging screen, and now you're ready to go. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to look through the manual, but also to give your sales rep and your clinical ultrasound specialist a call, and we can help you out. Thanks.